Welcome to the Marriage and Motherhood Podcast. I'm your host, Michelle Perda. I'm a life and marriage coach for moms, wife, mom of 3, and I'm also an Aries, and for my fellow human design nerds, a sacral manifesting generator. This podcast is for women who want to be happier in their marriage as they navigate their journey through motherhood, even if you're like me and you weren't shown how while growing up. Inside, we're going to be talking about breaking generational cycles when it comes to how to handle conflict in healthy ways, redefining motherhood your way, and prioritizing your well-being, because here, we believe that women don't have to sacrifice their happiness to be a great mom. And a quick note to mamas listening with kids around, you may want to pop your earbuds in because nothing is left unsaid on this show, which means there may be times where something I say isn't meant for little ears. Are you ready? Let's dive in. Hello. Welcome back to another episode of the Marriage and Motherhood Podcast. In this week's episode, we're going to be talking about a big day that's coming up pretty soon. Pretty soon. Like, I can't believe that it's already February. And a big day that you might have felt a lot of disappointment and sadness around in the past. And that's Valentine's Day. Yeah, Valentine's Day. It's a big day to most women, at least. It's a big day for most women. And I want to share with you how to not feel disappointed by it anymore. How to set your Valentine's Day this year going forward to be everything that you want it to be successful on your terms. Valentine's Day is coming up really soon. And thanks to consumerism and the media, there is a lot of pressure put on people, put on couples for it to be this whole big thing. It's a lot of pressure for men to pull out all the stops, to profess their love and somehow put in all this effort, money, and time to show how much they care. It's almost like you have to prove on this day how much you care by what you do, right? And there's pressure on women to be like, look what happened to me. Look what my partner did for me, to have proof to show how healthy or successful their relationship is, right? And some men or spouses might follow along with this, while some others might rebel against it because they see it as just another day that businesses just decide to capitalize on. It has no significance to your relationship because it's not when you first met, it's not when you first dated, and it's not when you got married. Or at least for most people, it's not, right? There are some people who choose to have these big milestones on actual Valentine's Day. And if that's you, this doesn't apply to you. But that's not most people, okay? It's just a day that people have decided to make it be about love. Now, thinking about it that way, I mean, that's great. I think it's always good to remember and recognize and celebrate your love for each other. But there's just been a lot of pressure put on this actual day. So if you have a spouse that doesn't subscribe to this idea of Valentine's Day, or you felt disappointed by how it's gone in the past, this is for you. Now, I know what it's like to feel disappointed on Valentine's Day. In past relationships, including the earlier years of my marriage, I've had all these desires of being swept off my feet like a fairy tale, starting off with being surprised with beautiful flowers and having a date planned out that didn't require me to make any plans or handle any logistics or make any decisions. And everything was just me super romantic, right? Handwritten note with how he feels about me, how great we're together, how lucky he feels to have me, and how much he looks forward to continuing to build a life with me and perhaps
a sentimental gift or a couple's massage, something meaningful, something that I would like. But instead, the day would come and nothing. I'd wait around all day, hoping there was a surprise around the corner, that I just needed to be more patient, but no. Or I'd get flowers and a generic card without any heartfelt message, just said, Michelle, happy Valentine's Day, and signed whoever that was. And that was it. I made this all mean that I wasn't special enough, loved enough, or that I mattered enough for someone to put in the time, the effort, and the money. Why did other women get celebrated more than me, right? That was a thought that I had. Was it me? Was it my significant other? And how do I change that? How do I experience Valentine's Day like the other women who were swept off their feet and had everything that you could just like imagine and hope for? So today I'm going to be sharing with you 3 mistakes that I've made that I have since learned from and have changed how I experience Valentine's Day. Mistake number 1. I did not know what Valentine's Day meant to me and how I wanted to celebrate it. I had grown up with an idea based on rom-coms, right? I've seen and just like, ooh, that looks great. It looks so romantic. I would love that, right? But it was just an idea planted in my head. I didn't actually know. I didn't take the time to stop and ask myself what I wanted. What did Michelle want? What was meaningful to me? I had no idea. And without knowing, we cannot expect our partners to know as well. Because if we don't even know, how could they possibly even begin to know? It's just like a huge guessing game. And this kind of segues into mistake number 2, which maybe you can guess what that might be, right? Like if I don't know, obviously I'm not sharing it. So the second mistake that I made was I didn't communicate what I wanted and what the day meant to me. How could I if I didn't know, right? What I actually ended up doing was I didn't say anything. I used to pride myself in being this really low maintenance kind of girlfriend. Oh, I don't need that. I don't need you to open my doors. I don't need flowers. Like, I don't need any of that. You don't have to worry about me. I'm an independent woman and I'm good. I don't need you to spoil me. I don't need you to, do all of these things to show that you care about me. But that was bullshit. Okay. I actually did like those things. I just didn't want to admit that I did because for some reason, I viewed needing that stuff, being quote unquote needy, which if you need, like, if you like that stuff, I'm not calling you needy, but that was my opinion. If I needed that stuff, that I was needy and I didn't want to be viewed as weak. If you have a spouse that doesn't subscribe to this idea of Valentine's Day, or you felt disappointed by how it's gone in the past, this is for you to be recognized and celebrated. And I wanted to spend time to celebrate our relationship. And I wanted certain things to be done or for us to do to celebrate and recognize our relationship on Valentine's Day. And by not communicating what I wanted and what that day meant to me, I unknowingly was putting them to a test to read my mind, a mind that wasn't even clear on its own. So, they're going to fail, right? No one likes to walk into a trap. And unless your spouse grew up with a male figure who learned to be romantic and they were intentional, chances are they need your help knowing what your desires are so that they have an opportunity to fulfill them. Most times, your husband actually wants to satisfy you. If he has the capacity to do so, he wants you to be happy. Not that he's responsible for it, but he wants to do whatever he can to contribute towards your happiness. It brings him a lot of joy and satisfaction to know that he knows how to make you happy, that he's a part of why you're so happy. Just like how it feels really great when we do something kind to make them feel special for our spouse or our kids. It feels really nice knowing we brightened up their day and we help them feel seen and special. It's the same thing, okay? So if you have no idea what Valentine's Day means to you and how you want it to be celebrated, take a moment and just close your eyes or grab a journal and imagine, what is your ideal Valentine's Day like, right? What do you want to happen? How do you want to feel? And then share it, right? Granted, now we are moms and there are things that need to be worked around if your idea of Valentine's Day is like a day trip somewhere or an overnight trip somewhere. Logistics need to be planned around, which means that the conversation needs to be happening in advance. Okay? So share what it is that you want and let him know, how would you love to be celebrated? How would you like to celebrate with him? And invite him to share what his ideal Valentine's Day is, right? You can work together to create one that is equally enjoyable to the both of you, because Valentine's Day is not just about celebrating the woman. It is celebrating the couple, and he's a part of that, okay? And if you don't really have any ideas, think about maybe like a theme, how you want to feel. If you want to feel special, understand what that means for you, because it's really easy for you to just leave it at that, but then it's kind of vague, right? It's kind of like when you say, why can't you love me the way I want to be loved? And you don't know your love language, right? But when you know your love language, it's really easy to spell out, hey, my love language is acts of service. So I really feel loved when you do things to help my life be easier. So like if you made my coffee in the morning, that would be one less thing for me to do and I would really feel taken care of, right? So let him know what your definition of feeling special looks like, so that you're not leaving him guessing about what the hell that even means, because the way he feels special is very likely to be different than what you think it means to feel special. And if he's confused, what might happen is A, he's going to freeze up and decide to do nothing because it's just too overwhelming and he doesn't want to fail, right? So he's just like, why bother? I don't want to risk disappointing her, so I'm just not going to try. B, do what he thinks makes him feel special, which might not translate. Or C, ask someone else, like a family member or a friend, what he should do, which might not even be what you want. So don't assume that he knows. And if you're feeling any sense of resentment, like, why do I have to spell it out for him? Shouldn't he know me well enough by now? Or why can't he just put in some effort? Then here's some tough love from me to you, okay? You can either set yourself up to have an enjoyable Valentine's Day and reduce or eliminate potential feelings of disappointment, or you can play the game of chance and test him and risk feeling disappointment, which can cause an unnecessary argument and unnecessary feelings of like you don't matter, like he doesn't love you enough, like you're not special enough, like you're not valued enough. And that's the exact opposite of how you want to feel on Valentine's Day, on a day that you want to be celebrating your love, not feeling not enough. So, in short, you can romanticize being surprised, or you can romanticize setting up your spouse for success and get what you actually want, kind of like a wish list. You can still be surprised, just give him something to work with so he can go down the right path, right? So if we're like taking the example of a wish list, you can say, okay, I would love to celebrate Valentine's Day by feeling luxurious. So something like, anything along the lines of getting a couples massage or getting a limo to go into the city and going to a really nice steakhouse, or, just list it on and on and on so that he could still feel like he's curating a special experience for you, but he has something to work with that fits your criteria. He could still be creative and feel like it was his doing, his planning, his idea. He just has a little bit of inspiration to follow. And that kind of sets you up for success too, because you're like, okay, I filled him in. Now it's up to him. Or you can make it a joint effort and be like, okay, how do you want to celebrate it? This is how I want to celebrate it. And you guys come up with a plan together so that you both can mutually enjoy the day and focus on each other. Now, mistake number 3 is I didn't bother trying to understand what Valentine's Day meant to them. Yeah. I think it's really easy to just focus on the female's experience of it all, as if we're like some damsel in distress where we need the man to come in and make our experience good, or else it's just sucky, right? But truth is, they have opinions too. They have a perspective too. It's their experience too, right? So it's important to know, where do they stand when it comes to Valentine's Day? Do they care about it? Or do they think it's a waste of money? Or are they somewhere in between? Maybe they're indifferent. Back in the day, before I had kids, I would be really thoughtful about picking out or making a gift to give on Valentine's Day. I put in a lot of time and effort and expected something of equal or greater weight in return. And when I didn't, I felt gypped. I felt completely hurt, and I took it personally. I let it ruin my day. I let it mean something about the health of our relationship. Which is why knowing where they stand is a great place to start a conversation about what it means to both of you. And if you don't think about it the same way, it's a good way to practice reflecting on why it's important to you and what it would mean for it to be celebrated. And knowing this before Valentine's Day, as much in advance as possible, right? Because knowing that in advance is key, because it's going to lead to a very different conversation versus choosing to have it after you're already feeling disappointed, right? If you're already feeling disappointed, you're emotional, you're not going to be of sound mind, and things are going to end up where you don't want it to go, right? You're going to end up falling into those unhealthy habits of letting your emotions spill into the conversation, right? There's a difference between explaining your emotions and expressing your emotions when it comes to conflict. And if you're feeling disappointed and frustrated and sad and hurt, that may come out as criticizing, blaming, taking on the role of being the victim and attacking them, or shutting down completely and just giving them the silent treatment because you're just so upset with them. Nothing that's going to lead to a productive conversation that's going to help future Valentine's Days go better. Okay. Now, if your husband doesn't want to celebrate it, don't let it rile you up right away. I know it's really easy to be like, but I want to celebrate it and you don't, right? Instead, take a deep breath. Take the time to understand why, right? It might not even be why you think it might be. It might not be like, oh, he doesn't want to celebrate us. He doesn't see the point in celebrating us. It could be he doesn't like crowds. And so if you're flexible about it, you could celebrate on a different day, right? He has no idea how rigid you are about Valentine's Day because you guys haven't talked about what the day means to you. Like, is it the exact day that's meaningful to you, or is it the idea of Valentine's Day, right? Like, if you're flexible about it, you could celebrate it the weekend before, the weekend after, or midweek, because it's about the intention. It's about focusing on what Valentine's Day means to you as an idea, as a concept, versus getting hung up on societal pressure to celebrate it on the day of, right? Like, as you've gotten older, I'm sure you've gotten used to not celebrating your birthday or even anniversaries on the specific day that it happens, right? If it's not convenient because it's a weekday and we've got school stuff to handle and work and, just all the bedtime stuff, like, you know how it works. During the week, bedtime is like preset because you want to make sure the kids wake up on time so that you can start your day, they could get to school on time, et cetera, et cetera. So you're a little less flexible on that. And so maybe you recognize it on the day of, but you choose to actually do the full celebration on a different day. So he has no idea if you're flexible about it, just like those other occasions that you might like to celebrate. Another potential reason is he has a different definition of what it means to celebrate Valentine's Day based on his past. What if in the past they've had relationships where they didn't celebrate it? She didn't care, he didn't care, so it's just any other day, right? It's kind of like March 5th. Okay, it's March 5th, right? Or he could have been in a relationship with someone who had really high expectations of Valentine's Day, and maybe he's grown to think that it's unfair. So this is why it's important to not jump to conclusions as soon as you hear that it's not something that he cares to celebrate, and make space to clarify what's going on before deciding on what to do next, before deciding how you want to feel about it, how you're going to respond to him or react to him based on what he's saying. Okay? When we seek to understand, then we can choose our next step appropriately. But when we jump to conclusions and we make assumptions based on one thing they said without actually confirming that's what they mean or understanding, getting curious, why is that? What are your thoughts on Valentine's Day, right? Without accusing or making them feel bad about it, when we don't make space for them to share with us their experience of Valentine's Day, what they want out of it, what they think about it, that's when we can get in trouble and end up in unnecessary drama. Okay? So make sure you take the time to understand his point of view. Now, I'm going to give you a caveat to this. Okay? While this is all great in terms of lessons to apply based on my mistakes in the past to help set your Valentine's Day up for this year and years on to be successful, I want to remind you that ultimately, we only have control over ourselves. Now, after understanding what Valentine's Day means to them, ideally, you guys can get on the same page and start to experience Valentine's Day how you both want to. However, it's possible that your spouse legitimately just doesn't like it and they'd rather celebrate other stuff instead because Valentine's Day is meaningless to them and they don't want to play into consumerism or whatever their reason is. We cannot control them. So if you want to feel special and they don't want to celebrate Valentine's Day, you're going to have to think about how else you can achieve that. Okay? Or redefine and reflect what you need for yourself, and maybe you go treat yourself. Maybe you go feel special by pampering yourself. Or maybe you go hang out with friends and call it Galentine's Day and pamper each other. Okay? Don't let this mean that your relationship is in trouble. Respect that he doesn't care to celebrate it. If he's showing you that he cares every single day of the year and he doesn't want to make a big fuss over Valentine's Day, don't put any meaning to it. Okay? Take a look at your relationship as a whole and don't let this single day that's been hyped up because of consumerism define the health of your marriage. Okay? Now, all of what I just explained to you is an example of how having the right tools can turn your marriage communication from you experiencing conflict like bawling your eyes out anytime you have an argument, where there's yelling or someone's shutting down or you're both ignoring each other until the dust settles and you two just feel off for a while, to having a calm conversation amongst two adults who care about each other, where you're both listening and learning about each other and growing closer together in the process and having very minimal time feeling disconnected as a couple. Healthy marriage communication just comes down to having the right skills and using them, which means that everyone can learn them and change how communication works in their marriage, including you. Even if you've been handling conflict the same way with unhealthy habits for decades. Okay? I know this to be true because, well, personally, I lived it. Right? I did not have healthy communication growing up. I didn't have it modeled, therefore I didn't know about it. I had to learn the hard way how it works. I had to choose to communicate differently, go out and seek out these skills so that I can experience relationships the way I felt like I deserved to. Okay? And I've seen this to be true through my clients as well. They've been able to turn around how they experience conflict from having explosive arguments to feeling like, oh, that was a breeze. Much shorter arguments, much calmer, much more connected, much more open and engaged, where they see a difference in their spouse and how they communicate, even though only the woman is working with me. Okay, so it really just comes down to the skills. And if you want to add communication as an area of strength in your marriage, you can do this too, just by either taking one of my e-courses or through coaching with me. And if you're ready to set your marriage up for success, I'd love to help you get there. So let me know. I'll drop some links. And if you have any questions, reach out and I'm happy to help you get to whatever marriage goals that you have, because all I want for you all is to be happy, and healthy in your relationships. And it really is just a matter of having the skills to be happy in a relationship. And it's really sad that a lot of us, including myself, have not been taught how to do this. It's not been taught in schools. And if you didn't have parents who had a healthy relationship, then you likely haven't learned it too. So it's not about being pretty enough or smart enough or funny enough or whatever enough. It just comes down to where you taught it. And if you haven't, then it comes down to, are you ready to learn it? Okay. I hope you have an amazing day. I hope this helps you out. I'd love to hear how your conversations turn out. So feel free to message me and let me know. And I hope that you have the best day on Valentine's Day yet this year, and that you continue to have an amazing Valentine's Day going forward. You deserve to be loved how you want to be loved, and your husband deserves to know how to love you the way you want to be loved, so that he can feel good about being the husband and feel like he's a successful husband, that he has a happy wife, instead of feeling like a failure. That's it for this episode. I hope you have an amazing rest of your day. Thanks for listening, and I will catch you back here next week. Bye.
Thank you so much for listening to the Marriage and Motherhood Podcast. I hope that this episode helped you deepen your relationship with your husband and, more importantly, with yourself. If you know someone that this episode would help, please share it. All right, see you back here next week. Bye.